These pretty pictures, endearing videos, memories so haunting, Rona Fowler can barely hold back the tears. Tell me about what your daughter was like when she was growing up.
Mischievous. She was a firecracker. You always found her in something. She was always one of those types where she never let anything pass her by.
But this mother's incredible sorrow would come later, following a night of brutal horror.
I can't hardly stand it. It's horrible. It's ugly.
In the summer of 2013, the sun was still shining on 15-year-old Danielle Locklear, the sparkling-eyed teen spending the warmer months at her grandma's house 2 hours from home in idyllic Hope Mills, North Carolina, surrounded by a big, loving family of grandparents and aunts.
She had a beautiful smile and an infectious laugh. We felt that, okay, we have one more person here that didn't mind getting her hands dirty, that didn't mind work.
After a summer at camp, Danielle's freshman year begins. She asked to enroll in high school up north with Grandma. She'd grown close to her new friends in Hope Mills, especially one friend, a handsome high school senior named Jamichael. Was she dating?
Apparently she did meet Jamichael Malloy.
What did you think of him?
I thought he was a nice kid. I mean, he was quiet. Very quiet. I guess around me he was and everything because, you know, I'm the mom.
He was very introverted. But that was okay. It's the making seemingly of a very good and respectful kid.
Danielle's aunt, Chena Papa, saw Danielle light up whenever her new boyfriend was around. So what was her relationship with Jamichael like?
Well, when she first met him, she fell head over heels. She was in love. She was putting hearts everywhere. All of her notebooks had Jamichael Malloy, Danielle Malloy.
But there was someone else vying for Jamichael's attention, Dominic Locke.
Dominic Locke was Jamichael's best friend. They were tied to the hip. They had plans of doing the military thing together.
But for now, Dominic was the third wheel in Jamichael and Danielle's budding love story.
His friend, Dominic, seems like a person that's easily told what to do. You know?
When they're alone, Danielle and Jamichael's ups were good, like home-cooked meals at Danielle's house and nightly cell phone chats. But the downs were deep, like this lonely update on Danielle's Facebook. Danielle writing, "I feel no love because some people are too busy with other friends to pay attention to their girlfriend." Did you ever see them having problems?
They had broken up around Christmas time. A week later, they were back together. So everything was fine.
Fine, until a night near the end of the school year, March of 2014. Danielle's mom, Rona, back home in Myrtle Beach, gets the phone call every mother dreads.
My sister said, "Danielle's missing." I'm like, "What do you mean she's missing?" I'm panicking. You know, when someone tells you your child is missing, you go into a whole other mode. Get to my mom's house and everything, and apparently she had left the house that night.
The last person to see her, Danielle's grandpa.
Asked my stepfather, could she walk a folder down the street to a neighbor? Supposed to be homework or something. And he gave her permission to leave, and like, well, hurry up and come back.
Police are called, a missing persons report filed, followed by a growing sense of dread.
And for a few days, everybody was praying and hoping that, you know, maybe she did just run off. Maybe we really don't know her like that.
But Danielle's Aunt Chena can't rest until she finds her. She investigates on her own, starting with a rumored secret place near Grandma's house.
Where I'm living, where my home is, in Hope Mills, there's a creek back there that these school kids hang out. And I didn't know it was a hangout back there.
By the light of day, a teen hangout. But when night falls, the dense brush surrounding the muddy waters hides something darker, and neighborhood kids are whispering, It's a place Danielle was last seen alive.
I went there the next day around the same time and looked at the woods and said, this is like a scene out of a horror movie. I wouldn't even walk back there. And she voluntarily walked into the dark woods? No way.
Sheena ventures deeper down the creek side's dirt trails and sees something that stops her heart cold.
I see help scratched on the ground.
Help. 4 letters that send chills down Sheena's spine. Was it some kid's prank or a desperate plea?
I'm like, is that a joke or what is that?
Then something else, and it's no joke.
As we're exiting the trail, I look down and I'm like, this is her sock. It was rolled, like it had rolled off of a foot.
If it was Danielle's sock, where was the other one?
I'm videotaping myself eating cake because I'm just that fabulous.
Yes.
Beautiful high school freshman Danielle Locklear in happier times. Now, she's missing. The only clues? A single word, help, scrawled in the mud, and a single sock. Both discovered by her aunt at this dark creekside the day after Danielle disappeared.
That was one of the first times in the case where there was a real concern that she had met with foul play.
But the eerie clues don't lead to Danielle. So as days turn into weeks with no sign of the missing girl, David Survey of the Hope Mills PD ramps up the search, calling in the FBI.
It was just a sense of urgency of, let's see if we can hurry up and find her.
It leaves Danielle's family with little to do but wait, worry, and beg for her return.
I just want to say, thank you. I love you, baby.
At every search party, suspicious eyes get cast in all directions, even toward Danielle's high school senior boyfriend, Jamichael Malloy, the boy who loved Danielle as much as she loved him.
Jamichael was at the search, balloon release, come by the house, hugging me. I cried on his shoulder, everything. You're looking at any and everyone.
In fact, Jamichael tries to offer his own bizarre tips based on what he says was Danielle's state of mind.
She told me that she wanted to kill herself and drown herself in cold water. And I was like, first of all, she's missing right now. Why would you even think like that?
But Jamichael's best friend, Dominic Locke, he's nowhere in sight. Then, just as all hope seems lost,
Dispatch.
Hey, dispatch, this is 113. How you doing?
it's an off-duty cop's call-in from this bridge, a stone's throw from Danielle's school near the South River on the Cumberland County line.
A detective from the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office was on his way home, and he looked out over the creek as he drove across the bridge and saw something just didn't look right to him.
Is there a deputy that's close by with a pair of binoculars so I can make sure there's not a body in the water? Could be nothing. I can't tell.
But sadly, it's not nothing.
It ended up being Danielle.
After 23 days, the young girl's sludge-covered body pulled from the still brown water, bound by nylon rope, tied to cinder blocks.
Once Danielle was taken out of the river, is when you could clearly see the rope tied around her waist and the cinder blocks attached to it.
The 25-pound blocks, a crude but failed attempt at weighing her down in the muddy water, and one more final gruesome detail. A single sock forced deep into her mouth. The sock is a match for the one her aunt found at the shore.
Asphyxiation was given as Danielle's cause of death. During the autopsy, they found where a sock had been forced down Danielle's throat.
It's a horrific sight that breaks the heart of even a veteran cop like David Survey.
I was just like, look, this is horrible. Look what they've done to her. There was no way her family would be able to have any type of an open casket or anything like that.
Soon after, Danielle's mom, Rona, gets the tragic news.
That night, my cell phone rang and it was FBI. And I just knew something wasn't right. And she said, well, we have a body. I said, well, I understand you probably can't answer the question, but I said, just at least look at me in my eyes. And I said, it's her. She couldn't say nothing because I knew.
Police examine Danielle's body, the rope, and take a close look at the cinder blocks.
I remember looking at the cinder blocks, and I just thought those were very unique cinder blocks. Small rocks and pebbles in them, and they were thin. And you usually would see that cinder block around a really old house or something like that.
The location of the body tells Survey where to look next. It's nearly a mile from someone Danielle knew very well. Yes, Danielle's boyfriend, Jamichael Malloy.
I learned a long time ago there's no such thing as a coincidence. The next day, we executed a search warrant at Jamichael's house.
Survey and his investigators turned Jamichael's place upside down, looking for anything that would tie him to Danielle's murder. On Jamichael's property, they find rope that matches the one binding Danielle, and there, neatly stacked next to the garage, cinder blocks. Distinctive. Speckled with pebbles, a match for the ones at the lake.
When I saw those cinder blocks at Jamichael's house, I knew we were at the right place. I knew it. There was no doubt in my mind.
Then they find Danielle's cell phone tossed onto a highway median a short distance away.
And there was a voicemail on there, I guess when they were arguing. He said, if you come around me, I will kill you.
But did this angry teenage rant tell the whole story? 15-year-old Danielle Locklear's body has been found, tied to cinder blocks, and dumped in this slow-moving river.
Still just wondering who did it. Who did it?
Investigators think they know just who did it. Danielle's high school boyfriend, Jamichael Malloy.
If you dropped a ping where the river was, it would land on his house because it was that close.
Cops swarm Jamichael's house. They find rope and cinder blocks matching the ones wrapped around Danielle's body.
If this were me, I'd be losing my mind at all these cops on my property executing a search warrant.
But not Jamichael.
Just cool as a cucumber. He began to ask questions about our police canine. What kind of dog is it? How old is it? Can I play with him?
But armed with physical evidence, Chief Survey knows it's time for cops to ask the questions to Jamichael and to his best friend, Dominic Locke.
It would be a matter of time before we'd be putting handcuffs on Jamichael.
Only then, under the heat of interrogation lights, does the cold-hearted truth emerge.
It's going to give us an opportunity to show who you are and how things happen.
Jamichael coldly relates how he broke up with Danielle for good at the creek.
And we were fighting, and next thing I knew, she wasn't breathing. And I freaked out.
His best friend Dominic Locke was just 70 yards away and tells investigators he was shocked when Jamichael came running up from the creek alone.
After a while, he came back to me, and he told me she's dead. And I asked him what he's talking about, and he ran down there, and I ran after him, and she was just laying there on her stomach.
Dominic says he was still in shock when Jamichael asked him to help with Danielle's body.
He was like, she's dead, and she wasn't supposed to be out. We're both gonna get charged with murder. He was like, we need to get rid of the body.
At that point, Dominic admits he helped Jamichael move Danielle up the creek bed. Jamichael took over from there.
Threw her in the car, went back home. That's when I got the cinder blocks and the rope, tied her up and put her in the river.
Jamichael claims he freaked because Danielle lied and told him she was pregnant.
To scare him to what? To stay with her?
I think to get his attention. I can't say that she wanted him to stay with her other than that these were teenagers coming to the end of a relationship.
And a baby just wasn't in Jamichael's plans.
It was a very cold interview. Jamichael didn't show any emotion until he began speaking about his potential career in the military was now ruined.
After this happens, all you're thinking about is your life is gone.
The only time he cried, I just thought, wow, that's what he's upset about.
But Jamichael's matter-of-fact account doesn't fully tell the tale of Danielle's horror. That comes from Danielle's grieving mom, Rona, who tells me the heartbreaking reality of how her daughter died.
They had a heated argument out there, like in the woods. Then she turned her back to him, and then he came up behind her, and that's how he chucked her down. So he ran back to the car, told his friend, she's dead.
And the sock? Dominic tells investigators it was one final act to silence Jamichael's girlfriend.
His friend said he could not stand the sound of my daughter's body was making. I guess the gases being expelled from. And also, I took her boots off and took her sock and shoved it in her mouth.
The car was like smelling. He said, put the sock in her mouth.
With Danielle silenced forever, they just had one more despicable act.
They put her in the trunk of the car. They got cinder blocks and nylon rope.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I am so very sorry.
They tied her ankles to cinder blocks and tied the other two around her waist. They took her to a river right down the road and they tossed her in the river.
Jamichael Malloy pleads guilty to murder in the second degree. Dominic for his role in dumping Danielle's body, accessory to murder.
So what was Dominic's role in all of this?
Collateral damage. It's a horrible story. He knew exactly what he did was wrong. He knew why it was wrong. He knew it was wrong when he was doing it. And that's why he accepted the plea that he did.
Before his sentencing, Jamichael makes one last attempt to save his own skin, offering this apology to Danielle's heartbroken family.
I know there's nothing I can do there or I can say it's going to bring her back. I do want to apologize for the actions that I made. I know sorry doesn't cut it.
Sorry doesn't cut it. Jamichael gets a maximum of 25 years in prison.
I hope that he rots in jail. He doesn't deserve to live.
His friend Dominic Locke, 6 years behind bars, while Danielle's mother will spend the rest of her life haunted by her daughter's savage murder.
You know, a lot of people, they'll ask me, how do you get over it? You don't. Just move on.
Locklear's mother says her daughter's killer has sent her several letters from prison. Most of them remain unopened. She calls them garbage. Jamichael Malloy will be eligible for parole when he's 43 years old.